99.3 Nigeria Info. It's time to check out the front pages. Stories making the rounds. And if you're watching us live on Facebook right now or YouTube where we're streaming, you can see that we have loads of papers.
Yeah.
Wow. They came out in full force today,
It's
I
Friday.
think.
It's Friday.
All the stories are
Friday too.
Right. I have you on my side of the table, The Guardian, The Vanguard, The Nation newspaper, The Punch, as well as The Oracle.
I have this day here, the Daily Independent, Daily Trust, and Daily Sun.
And remember, we're doing this with you. If you can join us live right now, we're on Facebook and YouTube, Nigeria Info 99.3. You can also reach us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM. Let's run you through those stories that are big enough to get to the front of the papers. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
I'm Sheriff Quadry.
And we have this one in from The Guardian. NCP, others kick as INEC deregisters 74 political parties. 74. Commission fixes dates for Edo-Ondo governorship elections. We had 92 parties, minus 74.
We have 18 left now.
Good.
One is still, one is in court, APP. They've dragged INEC to court. So, and the court has granted stay of execution. So perhaps INEC is looking at finishing that particular case before they can now say 75 political parties.
Ouch! 74 political parties deregistered. On what basis? It's also on the Vanguard newspaper. It's reported also by The Nation. Edo election is September 19th. Ondo is for October 10. That's the date for those elections. It's the biggest story on the Punch. 74 parties lose registration, set to battle INEC in court. Commission axes Fawaimi's NCP. That's a conscience party.
Yeah.
Okotie's FDP, COA, and 71 others. Edo governorship election for September 19, Ondo October 10.
The same story is here on the front page of This Day newspaper. Political parties kick as INEC deregisters 74. It's on the front page of This Day newspaper. It's also big on the front page of Daily Independent newspaper. INEC deregisters AD, PDM, NCP, Fresh, 70 other parties. It comes with a rider. Fixes dates for Edo-Ondo governorship polls. That's on the front page of Daily Independent. Daily Trust has the same story. Mixed reactions as INEC deregisters 74 political parties. That's Daily Trust newspaper. And it's a banner on the front page of Daily Sun. INEC proscribes 74 political parties with riders. Recognizes APC, PDP, APGA, ZLP, 14 others. Fixes September, October for Edo-Ondo Guba polls. CMPP, NCP, others berate commission. That's the way the Daily Sun has it. Rotimi Sankore joins us. Rotimi, good morning to you.
Morning.
Well, we have 18 parties now. Interestingly, these conversations came up just before the general elections. Do we have too many parties? Do we have too few? But 74 down, axed down. Right now, according to INEC, actually, 16 political parties, after assessing their outing in the 2019 general elections, fulfilled the requirement for existence based on Section 225A of the 1999 Constitution as amended. But there's a new party, Boot Party, which was registered by court order after the general election. That will continue to exist because it was there's a court order.
Well, importantly, because it did not participate in the election.
Yeah, it came up after.
So the assessment of that party, you can say that party got the lucky draw. There is another second party in court.
Yes, one is in court.
So we characterize it as 16 plus 2.
Plus or minus 2.
Yes, because depending on what happens, those two may cease to exist by 2023. Well, it's obvious that this is going to be challenged.
Yeah.
We will have INEC on the public square at 4 this afternoon, and they can explain more. But there's something I'd like to point out, and which we've discussed before. If you look at global standards, including across Africa, we don't have too many parties. There are countries that are smaller than Nigeria that have more parties than Nigeria. What we didn't get right is the criteria for going on the ballots. Because a lot of people saying, oh, thank goodness, all this ballot paper that looks like, heaven knows what. You
can hardly find
between
space
the party, yes.
to even put your thumb.
I mean, one party is said to have benefited seriously from from misidentification, and a guy that never campaigned, that nobody can remember, even managed to come third.
I think they're the ones going to court now, I think. All right?
Okay, so this is what happens across the world, just so that people are in the clear. There is generally no restriction on the number of political parties that can be registered as far as you meet the agreed criteria. Rather, what you have is that before you go, for instance, on a presidential ballot, in a country like Nigeria, what would happen is that across the 36 states, the criteria, for instance, may be that you get 3,000 signatories per state out of everybody that is a registered voter. So 3,000 times 36. If you get that, you go on the presidential ballot. If you don't, you're only at the level below. At the governorship level, they could say from every local government, you need 1,500 votes, people to sign up for you. And if you achieve that, you go on the governorship ballot and so forth like that, and then for parliamentary seats. Now, that is what is done because it is well recognized globally that the danger of saying that it is only if you win a seat that you continue as a political party is that it triggers a do or die mentality.
Yeah, but I'm not sure
and
this
then
is just about you winning.
No, hold on now. But
I'm looking at that section now.
That's the major criteria.
No, it isn't. If you look at section 225, which
there are several criteria, but the major one is that you need to win something, or you need to win a local government, a state, 25% of something. That's the key thing they are going for.
I would advise that everyone listening, I mean, I can't read everything here, but you can go, just do a quick search. By the way, you should have the Constitution on your phone. You can download it and go check out section 225. It's quite explanatory. In fact, it starts from 223. Right, it starts from 221 political parties. Just look through, but we'll have a fuller conversation.
Look, we're in agreement that
5 p.m. today.
That's not. It's 4 p.m. That's not the only criteria.
Right.
But the main thing being hammered on, if you listen to all the explanation, the main thing being hammered on. Of course, they say if you fail, to meet XYZ, then INEC has the power to deregister you under the law. And that's broadly correct. But to then insert into that major conditions saying that you have to win a certain percentage of votes for the presidential, 25% of this, 25% of this, 25%. I mean, essentially what it means is that if you win an election, you do everything to keep every other person from winning.
Well, if that's the case, which is why some of these parties are going to court, but if you're going by the law, which INEC is quoting, you can go read it up yourself and join Rotimi Sankori at 4 p.m. for more on that. Of course, this story is not going anywhere yet. Let's talk about all the stories on the front page of the Punch. Ministers, agencies working at cross purposes. Who's saying this? The economic team. They must have seen quite something. Vanguard also has this. Our economic growth is slow. Advisory Council tells Buhari on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper.
It's on the front page of this day newspaper here. President's Economic Advisory Council laments slow growth rate. That's on the front page of this day. Daily Independent has the same GDP growth rate too slow or too low. Economic Advisory Council. Daily Trust, economic growth slower than population rate. Advisory Council. Let's take a look at what This day is saying about that story. The Economic Advisory Council EAC yesterday in Abuja submitted its preliminary report to President Muhammadu Buhari, lamenting that the economic growth rate is slow in contrast to the population rate that is growing at a faster pace. The eight-member panel, chaired by Professor Doyin Salami, met with the president in the State House, highlighting a number of challenges militating against economic growth, and expressed concerns that the rate of the growth of the economy is slower than the rate of the country's population growth. Rotimi, when the president put together this advisory council, I remember very well one of the major concerns that people are saying is a council that can tell the president, look the president in the eye and say, this is the problem.
Will the president listen to the team? That's been the biggest worry so far.
So, look, I am delighted to hear this news that the council has looked the president in the face and said, Mr. President, part of the problem is that population growth rate is outstripping economic growth. I always remind people that in the 8 years of the Buhari administration, over 60 million children will be born. That's roughly the population of the UK, France, Italy, just in 8 years. And there is no sign of schools,
no planning,
housing, healthcare. So tell me how the people anticipating chaos when those kids are between the ages of 18 to 24 are wrong. Now, the thing is, what should be done about it?
Right.
Because it's not telling him alone that is the thing.
Right.
What should be done about it? And it is what should be done about it that we should really focus on. Because what should be done about it, for instance, is that in the first instance, the federal government and the state governments and local governments now have to go on a massive campaign for girl-child education. Compulsory, quality, 6 years primary, 6 years secondary for every girl. That is the biggest form of family planning ever. Education for girls. Then, the actual family planning advice and commodities, sexual and reproductive health education, then needs to be made available to every girl and woman. Without those two things, once women are deprived of the rights to family planning, because it is a human right, you cannot impose on another person, 9, 12, 15 children. First of all, if the poor woman does not die, her life is going to be miserable. And on top of it, the economic contribution of the person is effectively removed from the equation.
If not zero, totally.
Yes. And once you have that kind of birth rate, what follows is poverty, and what follows after that is conflict. There is a global formula for it.
Right.
Once the birth rate exceeds a certain level and poverty kicks in, conflict is not far behind.
How do we have a firm grip on birth rate?
That's what I said now.
You hammered on girl-child education.
Yes.
There are a lot
Primary,
of married people.
secondary, compulsory, quality.
There are actually a lot of married people right now who are just giving birth. They believe that it's the gift of God.
Public
to give birth.
Public education has to do with it, but also access to family planning as a human right. Sexual and reproductive health needs to be recognized both as a right and as a developmental issue. I mean, all those countries people want to run away to, Canada, Sweden, that's what obtains there.
That's why
That's why those countries are more prosperous.
Well, let's look at another story here. It's the biggest one on the front page of the Vanguard. Decimation of Boko Haram. Prominent northern leaders disagree with Buhari and Air Chief Yakasai Balarabe Musa Junaid Dogara. Others fault president. I didn't accuse Buhari El-Rufai of sponsoring northern bandits, says Ribadu, coming in from the Vanguard newspaper. this big story is also on the Punch newspaper. You can see photos of the induction of the Augusta helicopters. We watched a part of that ceremony yesterday. Buhari inducts Augusta helicopters, promises to re-equip military. He also said some things about them maintaining proper maintenance of the ones they have. Yeah, but we have 3 new helicopters. There was a test run done yesterday. There was, it was.
We're trying.
Eagle Square.
Daily
Don't look at me like that.
Daily Independent has this way. Boko Haram victims. How did you arrive at your figure? Khan asks Buhari.
That figure is causing a lot of
they're
trouble.
asking that question. Rotimi, we said this the other day.
Yeah.
We can't even be happy for more than a few minutes that the Economic Council is giving good advice, which we can now say, okay, fantastic, but this is what needs to be done before the year starts again. I mean, what is wrong with the political elite? The banditry, you don't have to sponsor the banditry. The demographics produces the banditry.
Naturally.
The demographics produces the banditry.
And it keeps feeding it.
Yes, now. Look, once you have, I mean, by whatever figure it is, 10 million, 12, 14, 17 million children out of school, and you are not counting the adults that did not go to school.
At all.
You know? I mean, note that in the whole government narrative of Boko Haram, nobody mentions the adults that have no education.
That doesn't ever come up.
Which is why we have to keep repeating that at the height of the insurgency, 83% of all males in Yobe had not had access to education. In Borno, 63% of all males. In other words, those that had access to education were in the minority. Very tiny minority, mostly in government and mostly corrupt.
You see, I would have. It's a tough one. I know you might all say it's impossible, but I'm looking for an advisory team that could tell the president, sack your ministers. Because if the ministers don't know these things, they shouldn't even be there.
It's in all the data now.
And they even mentioned that there's
it's in the Bureau of Statistics, in the
right
Population
there.
Commission,
Absolutely.
it's in the Ministry of Education
It's
data,
there.
it's in the agencies, UNICEF,
and you have
UNESCO.
ministers in this, over these ministries, and yet we can't see it.
That is why it is almost inevitable to come to the conclusion that almost all the political elite are incompetent, selfish, and do not care about poor people or the development of the country. They are just there to settle themselves. See now, they are looking for the sponsor of the bandits.
Right.
When the bandits are... See, did you see the leader of the house, one rascal, beating his chest, saying he's not only a powerful guy in the house...
Beating his chest, he brought his wife. Someone just
but
tweeted
that he's also... Powerful at home.
Let me read this.
He has 4 wives.
He brought them.
And they are the mothers.
He actually saw them. He said, look
of
at
27 children and counting.
He said, stand up, stand up, stand up. Those. Let me read you a comment here.
And those are the kind of leaders that we have.
On Twitter, it says, how do we control our population when one of our lawmakers boasted on the floor of the house with his 4 wives and mentioned the number of children he's churning out?
He didn't say he had stopped, though. He said 27 and counting.
It says religion is the bane here, but education frees from the shackle. Lucky Mikoyo on Twitter says, it is a welcome development hearing that INEC had deregistered more than 70 political parties. The gospel truth is that more than half of the political parties in Nigeria are just constituting nuisance to the entire electoral system.
They are constituting nuisance on the ballot paper, not by their existence.
Jamil here also says on Twitter, for me, 3-party system including independent parties is okay for Nigeria economically.
Political education
if
is
you
a problem
that's what they think. So if you look very carefully, you will discover that the 3 are the most functional here in the country. Joy Forever also agrees and says,
and the 3 are not achieving anything for you.
It says the truth is we only need 2 political parties.
That's not true.
Also says Economic Advisory Committee is telling the truth, but are we planning at all? Questions.
We need better criteria for the parties to go on the ballot, not to exist.
You should join. Make sure to join Public Square today.
Yeah, I'm sure they will learn more. I'm sure they will get to hear more about how we can reform the political process in Nigeria, really. Public Square, 4 p.m. With Rotimi Sankore and the crew. Let's move on quickly now to our next story on the program this morning. And I have the headline here. No, I don't have it here, actually. I don't have it here. I think you do.
I think I do. I wasn't getting ready since we were getting ready. Okay. So let's see this next headline. Is 4 killed in Ondo bank robbery. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, just overwhelming. Photos on Twitter yesterday.
2 cops, 2 others killed.
The photos I saw, I keep asking. There were photos of broken out skulls, intestines. Why do people take and share photos like that? I don't get it. But the story is here: 4 killed in Ondo bank robbery on the Nation newspaper. It's also here on the Vanguard. Ondo bank robbery, 2 policemen, 2 others killed. Very unfortunate incident. Also reported by the Guardian: 2 policemen, others killed in Ondo bank robbery. That's it. Rotimi.
Every now and then,
I was tempted to report
this
those
kind of barbarism,
photos, but there were too many. It's just too gory.
every now and then, this kind of barbarism will happen by robbers, bandits, extremists that remind us, sadly, that the country is still seriously underdeveloped and there is a lot of insecurity. Again, everybody needs to understand. Everybody needs to understand that the more developed a country is, the more rights are respected, the more opportunities everybody has, the better the economy, the higher the level of industrialization, the less you will have this kind of thing. Not that you won't have crime.
I seem to disagree with that, Rotimi.
No, not that you won't have crime.
Some people will tell you that the more developed the economy is, the more the crime.
No.
Not
that you will not have
we're
crime.
not talking about banditry.
Not
we're
that
not
you
talking
won't
about,
have extremism.
Headsmen.
Not that you won't have banditry, but the numbers.
If you go to the UK, if you go to even South Africa here, they are more developed than us, and they have the skyrocketed amount of crimes that they witness on record.
South Africa has the highest youth unemployment in the world.
Right.
So there are other indicators you need to look at. You can't just say development based on what.
So, but they develop. They're more developed than us, right?
Yes, but they have the highest youth unemployment in the world.
So the question is, how many are they really? How many are they? If we're saying they have the highest number of unemployed youth,
It's not how many are they. South Africa has the highest. Google is your friend now.
Yes.
Nigeria has the second highest youth unemployment in the world.
Right.
There is a broad spectrum of indicators that you look at, and those indicators give you the formula of the likelihood of frequent violent crime, rise in extremism, rise in banditry, and all these kind of things. So if you look at those things, it is not. So, for instance, America is an industrialized country.
True.
There's a lot of violent crime in America.
True.
Because America is also one of the most unequal countries in the world. The level of inequality in America, the poverty is high.
Right.
Hence, a lot of drug peddlers, a lot of armed groups, a lot of. You can't compare America to Canada. Canada is next door.
Right.
And
the difference is
is very clear in terms of crime, in terms of armed crime, in terms of violence.
True.
I mean,
all
the Canadians think the Americans are on another planet, where everybody wakes up in the morning and takes drugs. If you go to Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Norway, all those kind of places, Netherlands. I mean, these are places where the prisons are almost empty.
Look at the phones are buzzing.
We always talk about it that there are countries where the prisons are so empty that they now use the prison as tourist attraction.
You pay to sleep over.
You can pay to sleep over to have prison experience.
Let me get your response on this very quickly, Rotimi, as we leave. Banner headline of the Nation: Buhari, coronavirus, others threaten Nigeria's economy. All price dips below 57 benchmark budget. Bolao just said this some days ago, and there it was. Federal government allocates 620 million naira to stop coronavirus outbreak. It's on the Punch newspaper this morning.
And the authorities also said that we have about 1 million volunteers waiting to combat coronavirus if it gets into the
Volunteers
country.
that don't have the hazardous material suits.
Maybe they do.
That
I mean,
we rush-
for us to have
excuse
about
me?
over 600 million naira ready for it. So maybe we are truly ready.
620 million naira.
Yeah,
Are
maybe we're ready.
Well, we have tried.
Why are you smiling? Maybe
You are just trying to make me laugh.
Guys, we must go now. We're out of time. When we come back from this break,
It's not that we can't be ready, but the things we need to be ready are not being done.
well,
That money will not be released for the next one month.
it's chop chop for the
talk
boys.
about that. Before the money is even released, it's 620 million on paper. We don't know how far yet because the bill wasn't even
We don't have
discussed
doctors. We don't
in the
have health
house,
workers.
right? But we have doctors that are looking for work. We just haven't employed them. All right, guys, we're leaving you now. Just to be back in a moment. Thank you all for joining the live stream. We see you on Twitter. We also see you on Facebook and YouTube on our live stream. We're back in a moment. Thank you all for the comments also. I was talking female genital mutilation. We're bringing you a popular face, maybe not the face, but you know the voice very well.
Yeah.
A lady who's going to share her experience. She's one of us, right? She's going to share her experience with female genital mutilation. Maybe that would finally drive home the point.
Right.
You get what we're talking about, but that will be after this break. Rotimi, thank you.
Thank you.
I am Wemimo Adewuni.
I'm Sheriff Quadry.
Back soon.